Big news out of Capitol Hill today. Liberals hate the First Amendment, and Senator Ted Cruz is not afraid to call them out.
And where are the liberals today? Why is there not a liberal standing here defending the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment? Mr. Chairman, 42 Democrats have signed their name to a constitutional amendment that would give Congress the power to muzzle Planned Parenthood and the national right to life. 42 Democrats have signed their name to giving Congress the right to muzzle the Sierra Club, to muzzle the National Rifle Association and the Brady Center on Handgun Violence, to muzzle Michael Moore and Dinesh D'Souza.
That's Ted Cruz getting self-righteous with it at a hearing today about a proposed constitutional amendment that Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid and Democrats are pushing that would reestablish Congress's ability to regulate big money in elections, an ability that has largely been taken from Congress by a series of Supreme Court rulings, most notably Citizens United and the recent McCutcheon decision. Now, the right loves nothing more than casting themselves as victims and trolling liberals by pretending to care about liberal values. So, Senator Cruz can try to frame this as a core First Amendment issue, one that threatens the expression of Michael Moore as much as Dinesh D'Souza. But of course, the problem here is the Supreme Court's jurisprudence that has rewritten our understanding of the First Amendment. Because back in the bad old tyrannical days in which campaign finance reform was actually in effect, Michael Moore wasn't facing prison time or FCC sanction for releasing a documentary in election year because everyone understood what that movie was. It was a documentary. It was First Amendment protected free speech, not a campaign ad in the guise of a documentary. So, would the constitutional amendment being debated today actually change things, or would it, as Senator Cruz alleges, imperil the First Amendment? Joining me now is Zephyr Teachout, Associate Professor of Law at Fordham University School of Law. She's an expert in money politics. She just sought the endorsement of the Working Families Party for New York governor, had this big conference this weekend. They did end up endorsing Andrew Cuomo, but you talked a lot about money in politics, and I want to talk about it in a second. So you're a liberal, you're a legal scholar, you work on money in politics. What do you say to the First Amendment argument you're getting from Ted Cruz and Mitch McConnell that you liberals want to do something very dangerous, which is take away the First Amendment and start prosecuting political speech?
Well, there's two problems with it. First, it's a radical misunderstanding of the First Amendment. And second, it takes the First Amendment out of the Constitution in which it belongs.
Right.
And so it makes us all talk about the only constitutional value is the First Amendment. But in fact, we know if you look at all of American constitutional history, a core value is the value of fighting against the power of money in politics. I'm a legal historian. I just finished a book on what corruption has meant in American history. And if you look at the founding era, the reason they had the Constitutional Convention was to figure out how to keep people from being corrupted by, fancy presidents and the kings. So
they were obsessed, in
yes.
fact, with blocking corruption.
Exactly,
obsessed.
Right. So, the First Amendment argument is wrong, but there's also this real sort of inability to see the First Amendment in relationship to all the constitutional values.
It seems to me, I've now taken the position, and it's interesting to watch this political theater emerge over the amendment. And I call it political theater because the amendment is not going to be passed.
No.
I have come to believe that as regards campaign finance now, the worse the better, which is to say that just burn it all to the ground. That McCutcheon, just go all the way. Because I don't think these kind of Band-Aids that we have on the wound now are so insufficient. People need to see what full plutocracy really looks like.
Oh, my dear. I'm glad you weren't around in 1896. You would have said to William Jennings Bryan, just go home. Let the whole thing burn down.
That's a different thing. I'm saying from a Supreme Court perspective. I'm basically saying, knock it all down, right? And so that there's political mobilization around this issue. I'm not saying don't fight on it. I'm saying that now we have donation limitations. Get rid of the donation limitations. Who are you kidding anyway? In the era of super PACs, they're gone anyway.
I don't agree with you. I think there's a few really important things we could do. A lot of them are Band-Aids. A lot of the stuff is Band-Aids. One is public financing of elections, where you actually build a system. We've never built a system which allows a bus driver to run for Congress who doesn't have rich friends.
Right.
So I think maybe we should forget.
Yeah, how are you going to run for governor?
That's part of the question is, I'm ready to run, but if we don't have public financing of elections, I need a lot more rich friends than I have. Right. So I think it's our job now to build those systems, and we can do it. Connecticut has it. New York City has it. But the other thing, Chris, that I really think we could do is look back to the other plutocratic moment and say, we don't just have concentrated political power, we have concentrated economic power.
Yeah.
And without messing with the Supreme Court, we can go and stop some of these mergers, break up the Koch brothers' power in other ways.
So you think that's interesting. So part of it is a sort of anti-monopoly argument, right, on the economic side.
Yeah.
That there's too much economic power concentrated in too few hands. Public elections pass muster with the Supreme Court, right?
Yes,
and they haven't struck that one down yet.
Yes.
Aren't they just going to come after that, though, too?
Well, let's talk about the Supreme Court. Folks talk about the constitutional amendment strategy, but what about packing the court? What about adding some justices? I mean, this court is it's a rogue, out-of-control court. It's taking power away from the public.
Right.
And taking the power away from all of us to say, this is the kind of democracy we want.
I love that you just advocated court packing on air.
Yes.
Zephyr Teachout wants to pack the court.
Well, when you have a non-responsive institution, it's a good thing to have a Supreme Court.
Right. But
it can get out of control, too. Yeah. And any kind of sort of overly precious attitude towards it is a little problematic, especially this court. I'm an academic, but this is the most academic, least politically experienced court we've ever had. And I think they may need...
And sometimes I think that shows, particularly in campaign finance decisions, which read like they were written from people on Mars visiting the American political culture. Zephyr Teachout from Fordham University. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, it's primary night, and we're going to check in on the craziest race in all of America next.